how we value human life. It's I have here on my notes from last time from our conversation that we had was the mental idea to accept it and to execute it. So as far as like, okay, well, instead of having, like this morning, oh man, it was a cool learning experience because we I started working back with 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 this guy at work, and he's like finally I'm shifting over to giving him a bit of like his repair section, so he's gonna be like taking a lead on it, and I was helping him, and then I started doing like certain work, and then I pointed out, I'm like, oh look, like this was done wrong, and then he tells me like, oh it was not done right. I mean, it was done right, but when you tried fixing it, it screwed it up. And my ego self was like, no, this needed to be fixed before I did anything. And it took me about like 5 minutes. I'm like, look, like, is this me talking or is this my ego talking that being hurt? And I think that was my ego talking that being hurt. I'm like, fuck. So I told him, hey, you know what? Like 10, 15 minutes later, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did it wrong. But I think like accepting like people's skills at the time and being humble about it, and like throughout the whole rest of the day, we were just like laughing and being cool about it instead of like saying, hey, like you suck at this and go do something else, or kind of like the idea of once we have a project together. I think we talked out on it last time, like when we have a project to be done, whatever it is, you can call it the human society project.
Mm.
And you can say like, okay, well, like what kind of friends do I have around, and what kind of project do we want to get around. So obviously how to get along with people. Like, yeah, some people are storytellers, some people are good listeners, some people are like pointing out facts. So how can that society work to kind of just make, not, obviously life is stressful as it is, but not as tough as from one individual to another when that ego gets in the way. Does that kind of
Yeah, I
make
mean,
sense?
yeah, it's important because like I think we all struggle with it. You know, you want to have the best execution at something, and you want to be really good at your job and what you're doing. You want to have the best ideas or whatever. But it's kind of sometimes like if you're all collectively have the right vision in mind, it really shouldn't matter who's doing what. Or I mean, if you're building a house, there's going to be certain things that where if someone's trying something and you notice like, hey, this isn't going to be as supportive, if even if it's them trying to be innovative, but you might be well versed in the knowledge of like, hey, this isn't as supportive, but I like the direction you're going. Maybe we can use it somewhere else or somehow. You know what I mean? Like you can help build his innovation idea to make something different, but at the same time, they also need to be open to the fact that there's going to be some realistic things that go around. Like, okay, well, it's got to balance a certain way, or it has to be supported here in order for it to not collapse. So it's kind of just it's blending all of our knowledge together and not being offended when someone's not even trying to correct you, but just trying to
Mm-hmm.
like show you something or explain how they view something. A lot of times we have a hard it's just hard to like see from another person's perspective, so we all want everyone to see from our perspective, and that just makes it harder because you realize if you can't see from someone else's perspective, they're not going to be able to see from yours either. So you
Right.
have to kind of realize like
Right.
you just have to kind of get everything out, get to know each other, find where the strengths and weaknesses are, and then not downplaying what someone's strength might be. You know what I mean? Like if someone's I was kind of thinking about it in terms of like if someone is really good with ideas and has a good vision, but maybe they're not the best at making the execution happen, they shouldn't be faulted because a lot of times you want to tell that person like, oh, well, you should just do it yourself then, or this and that. But some people are really good at executions, but don't have the best ideas.
Right.
So it's taking those two people and the person that might be let's say a visionary, uh, them admitting like, hey, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the most, I'm not an expert at building stuff, but I just have these visions for things. How can we make it work? And then also acknowledging the credit to those who make those ideas work. If you reach out, if I do want to build something and I reach out to you, you know what I mean? I'm going to put your expertise alongside with my vision. I'm going to explain what I want, and then you're going to give me, some X or whatever, but at the same time we can still make the idea happen just by listening to each other and seeing through the problems.
Yeah, that's true because like let's say if you kind of start giving me your idea and because I seen it all like as far as like building a house or even necessarily just restoring the house to the way it was before because we deal with like a lot of like water damages and things like that and we tell them well we have to match it the same way how it was before and say but if you want any upgrades on your house just let me know and we can include it on there so, and then they have like, I've seen it from other contractors and that customers do tell us from other people that they just kind of like, oh, well, I want this, and then they just shun the idea like right away. I'm like, well, I mean, it just has to make sense, like as far as like, okay, well, is this your idea? Okay, can we make it work? And but sometimes I think the contractor just says, I want to do it this way, and there's no way I can work with you, which is fine. But at the end, it's like, okay, well, the idea is there, but if it can work, then why are you want to do it your own way? Like, because what I see with contractors is like there's just like one way to do it, as far as what can I put it in? Like a new like kitchen cabinet, let's say for example, and say we'll have this idea that we can put like nice big cabinets on top, and then you have your dishwasher here and this like this, and then at the end it's like, well, it's not gonna work. Let's say the contract is not gonna work because we have to shift the plumbing for some reason, and then the plumbing has to end up on the other side. And then let's say the customer's like, no, but I want it that way, and they shun the contractor right away, then there's no way that the contractor is even going to be comfortable enough to say, hey, I want to continue with the job. So it can be either with the customer or the client that kind of just like not getting the point across. But I guess at the end is like, well, this is my idea and this is how you got accepted. And then the other one's like, the guy with the expert, like, yeah, I get your idea, but this is the only way to do it because of what you got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people just shun ideas straight off the bat without even giving understanding, or to just say like, no, like, is it my way or the highway kind of thing, then
Right.
I feel even the opposite person that you're talking to is just going to stop and not listen. And I think everyone has to be willing to say, well, okay, well, if this is your idea, this is the only way we can do it. And kind of the other person be open to be able to actually listen and take of the idea, because obviously, like you said, everybody has different talents and different skills, and obviously the person has the idea and the other person can execute it.
Right. I mean, the thing is too, like if I bring my idea to one contractor and they just say,
Right.
"Oh, that's impossible. It can't be done," I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna like lose sight because I'm gonna come to you. And then if you even say, "Well, it can be done, but yeah, we have to move all this piping over here," I'm just gonna
Right.
say, "All right, well, let's do that." It's not about like my way of like if I want a kitchen from the right side to the left side, to me it's just a matter of at the end it's on the left side. If you got to do a bunch of work, I got to be
Mm-hmm.
able to allow you to do that. But if someone at the same time just tells me, well, it's impossible, it can't be done, or they just don't feel like doing all that work, obviously I'm not going to go to them, but I'm not going to be discouraged in my idea. That's the thing too. If someone just because one person says it's impossible or it can't be done, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it really there's a possibility. You just have to wait for that person who's able to say, well, we can do it, but we might just have to do this differently or that differently. And then as someone with the idea, you're going to say, all right, well, let's do that. I trust you. I have the faith in you. At least you're not telling me it's impossible. There's the people you don't really want on your team are the ones that go, no, it's impossible. It can't be done. It'll never happen. Those are the negative
Yeah.
voices that you got to like branch yourself away from at some point. And I think ultimately that's where we're at right now is sort of the overall scheme of each other and the way we're kind of handling everything that's happening right now is like we're in a time where everything is kind of about starting to see the strengths and weaknesses in each other and not really downing each other, but everyone is just so quick to come at somebody else for the way they see something, or if someone has such an optimistic view and they want a peaceful thing, everyone's kind of quick to shun that person and make them feel stupid and like, well, if you defund police, then the riots are going to break out and everyone's going to be chaotic. And it's like everyone no one gives the chance for the idea to come through of like how something can be done, how something can work in a peaceful way. We're very quick to assume that humans are evil by nature when it's kind of the reverse. We're sort of good by nature, and our surroundings, being told we're not good enough, being told our ideas ain't smart enough, those
Yeah.
are the things that it does start to push the person's ego, because they know, they're like, well, wait, I trust myself. I'm here. There's something coming through me to tell you this vision, but you're excluding me from the conversation. And now it's a
Yeah.
little frustrating because you're thinking you're better than my thought, but yet you're doing things and they're not working. So you know what I mean? And that's what gets the brain on that kind of that chaotic sort of thought process where you're like, why doesn't anyone want to listen? How come no one wants to do this? And then that can get a person very agitated on the inside. And that's what, they say will start to strike someone's ego up to where maybe they start trying to then execute their idea, but they're doing it in the wrong ways because now they're doing it out of spite rather than positive intentions. So,
That's true. That's true. And then it's funny thing that you mentioned like good versus evil, that it's always been like that. But I think you're the one that told me, is it Akira the Dawn?
hmm
Yeah, you told me about it, right? So
yeah,
that's actually one of my favorite things to listen to now. Like that's all I listen to really, because the way he mixes with music and like what's it?
it's like
Philosophical
motivational speaking and stuff.
motivational
Yeah,
speakers and like philosophical people and motivators, and he has this song that he kind of explains about, it's always been good versus good. It's never been good versus evil, like because obviously it's all about perspective. Like your good, you know, in my eyes can be evil. You see what I'm saying?
right.
And my good, but the thing is that you have good intentions, I have good intentions, so it hasn't been really like, and it goes like that song kind of explains about it, on how it's always been good versus good instead of good versus evil, and we just come up with these things like, and just kind of put like a defense mechanism, like your ideas don't matter, and I think make it look bad, instead of saying, well, maybe his ideas are different than mine, and what can I learn from it, and what can I add from his idea to mine.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of just kind of become like a little terrified of just like talking to other people because of what's been going on, that they feel that he's going to get shunned. Because sometimes I do feel like when I talk with certain people, and sometimes you just want to like throw facts out there, like, oh well, you're saying this, and but the actual science or whatever is this, you know and and I'm like, well, why don't you even do that? Like, maybe I should just hear that person out and see how, like, the way they overall think, and then like once I actually get like a full, instead of stopping them there and giving them the facts, say, well, let's hear like what you think overall and continue talking, and then at the end it's like, oh, okay, well, I see why you think this, and then can explain to them like my perspective, instead of saying, oh, like, you're wrong right away. and
Right.
and and it happens all the time. It's like, oh, like, or even like they start talking and then you hear like, oh, that person's full of shit, but it shouldn't be that way, unless they're like assholes and hurting other people, then obviously, yeah, they're full of shit. But if they're there having a conversation like we are, and we're open minded, so this conversation is going to flow, instead of just stopping there and not really get to know that person really,
Yeah.
because
But I think
maybe they have
too,
a lot to say. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I think too, like when you bring up the idea of, you want to jump in and throw in the facts.
Yeah.
I think something I've sort of started to notice is like facts are a lot of times just, they're based on things from the past. We don't focus on facts of the future because it hasn't necessarily happened yet. So whereas someone might recite, let's say, statistics around crime, they're only looking at patterns that have continued to happen. So when they start to go that route, all they're doing for themselves is developing a future where that pattern of that statistic continues to spiral. So even if someone has facts, you should even still be striving to learn more facts, because that's still only a limited amount of things you can know just by looking backwards. So as we kind of start to change the way we think and start developing ideas of the future, it may be worth the shot of trying to change those facts before they've even happened. That's something that a lot of people have a hard time doing, but when you research the idea around neuroscience or manifestation, whichever you want to go with, same ideals mainly, you realize that you have to kind of start living like what you would want has already happened. So if let's say, like, again, like let's say we're arguing crime rates or something, what's hard for me in those types of conversations is I see the future. I look to the future where crime rates are low because we've developed enough into the young minds that are sort of trying to develop right now, and they've found purpose. They've been able to, what we're talking about, they've been able to express their ideas and be accepted, and no one's saying, I'm better than this person, I'm better than that person. So like that's the future I keep my mindset on, even though I'm aware that the way people look at the present is mainly dealt in the past. Someone's going to come to me with the statistics of, well, this is the way things are. And for me, I'm like, but this is the way they can be. And if you can't accept how they can be, you're just going to constantly recreate the way things are. So it's like with what you're saying, like we want to jump into what we know. When someone like myself, sometimes I find it when I start speaking optimistically, someone does want to come at me with, facts and statistics right away that I'm aware of. I know they're there. I know what they are. But for me, if I focus just on that, that's what's going to end up happening again. So I like to be able to have the freedom of saying, like, this is the way I see the future going. Because if I think it's just going to be the same thing, I'm just always going to experience the same thing. So I got to keep trying to see a different result. I got to keep trying for that different result, because if I'm looking to the future, I want it to be different from my current situation. I want it, I want society to be better. I want us to be more together. I want us to be more accepting. So I can't just accept the way things are. I can't just accept the statistics when someone wants to give me, because I'm always like, yeah, I get it. It's like, that's what it is. I get that. But what are we going to do then to actively change that together, as opposed to start continuing to argue over whose stats matter the most or which facts are the truest? I mean, it's very obvious right now that we have a multitude of facts going around that are contradictory of each other, but they're all being presented on different news networks. One side has one set of information, another has another set. I mean, that's the way things are happening right now.
But you're definitely right. Of it's like they throw out the facts, they have all this, but they don't say, oh, this is what we're gonna do with this. No one's saying, let's solve this problem. Oh, this is how we're gonna solve problem. Oh, if you stop doing this, it's gonna solve itself. Or like if you don't do this, it's gonna solve itself. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, we're throwing like that's exactly. I just like kind of like saw like everything that I actually see on media and everything. It's like, yeah, all you really showing is statistics, things that already happened, but you're not really showing me how we're gonna fix it or how can I fix myself. Like if it's something health issue, like health awareness. Okay, well I'm sick. Okay, then how can I get better? So obviously you go to an actual expert of, hopefully you can point out one from the other, because in this world you never know, and say, okay, well I have this issue. Okay, what do I have to do? All right, well then you have to do exercise. You got to eat well. You have to take your vitamins. You got to make sure you're drinking a lot of water. I mean, it does just depends on what you got going on. But obviously, as long as you take care of your body is gonna take care of you.
Yeah, but ultimately, the best way to take care of your body is to keep yourself in a positive mindset. I mean, honestly, and I say this just from look at some of the oldest people on earth. Some of them. I just remember one specific where it's just like a woman who, was 100 and something years old, from America, I believe. And it was like when they interviewed her, she talked about how she would eat would be bacon. She just ate a lot of bacon. Which most people would say, well, that's completely unhealthy and this and that. Yeah. And then it turned out, they came and I think they like picked her up in the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile and stuff. But it's like, it's also not just it's not just the physical things that you're intaking into your body. It feels nice when you eat better foods. You can feel a little lighter, a little differently, whatever. But ultimately, what's going to keep you alive the longest is the healthiest mindset, the most positive outlook, enjoying the moments. Those are what's really going to keep someone alive even longer, because some people can stress themselves out trying to be healthy, and that's unhealthy in itself.
That is true, 100%. Because then you start thinking about it, and then you start stressing yourself. Even like it's funny that we're talking about like positives, because even exciting can be stressful. Being excited,
Mm-hmm.
like your body, like impacts it in a certain way. But definitely it is the mindset of how like, oh, like you think you're gonna get cancer, you think you're gonna get cancer. Well, what do you think is gonna happen? You're gonna get cancer because your body already created it in your mind, and you believe yourself and saying, okay, well, I have this issue. Okay, well, what's gonna be the future? Like you're saying, like what's gonna be the future better outcome of what it is now? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
what I know now, but what can I do to become better? And
Right.
if that changing your positive mindset, along with you know other things that are gonna help you get into or out of whatever you're in, like your virus or your cancer or whatever it is, then if that's the method that is gonna work, then it's gonna work. The thing is that a lot of us is like, oh, I know it works, but like like they don't create the habit to make it happen. And I think that's what a lot of things is like we as a human society, I think we kind of turn into a lot of cycles that sometimes it's even like like hard to get out of those certain cycles of like like thinking in a certain way, like negative. I think we touched up on it like a couple of times, like just thinking negative and never coming out of it until something extremely happens, and then they just snap out of it, and then next thing you know, okay, well, I gotta change my mindset. And a lot of people don't change their mindset until it's like either the last day and they start regretting their life, and I think it's like in order for us as humanity is that we need to start like developing those groups as far as like, okay, well, let me hear your ideas, even as bizarre as they are, I want to hear them because I never heard them before. It's like,
Right.
sure, tell me fucking aliens exist, like how do you know that an alien took you,
And that's kind of what I mean. Like
yeah,
I'm really tired of people reciting the same facts to me over and over again, because I'm just
yeah,
like okay, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I see that, but like what are these other possibilities?
yeah,
Like you have to at some point be able to escape the limited facts we have in the moment, like
right,
I mean, think about it. If the Wright brothers were told, if they really believed that they factually couldn't make something fly, would they have kept trying, but they knew it would happen, but they also knew they had to keep going with it and just keep going. So it's kind of that thing where even if the information at the time is limited, those who can really truly believe in their idea will make it happen regardless of what those facts are in that time. So
that's true. I mean, see how. Oh, no, that's true, 100%. Just see how far we got with all these flat earthers. Now.
hey, I mean,
No,
they have, I
but
mean, they have their own. That's the thing is like you don't have to agree with it or not, but for them,
that's
they
true.
have a world where they have people they connect with and they have a good time and they do their experiments. And honestly, like that's what I tell people. I say, yo, you knock it, but there's legit people with real degrees, real
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
scientific degrees that are in
I
there
totally
doing
agree.
studies. So it's like
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, but I like to hear it because it's
that's
different
right.
than what I'm used
That's,
to.
that's right. Because I was gonna go to like, because I was just thinking about like like SpaceX, like Elon Musk and all that. It's like, well, see how far we got from just thinking the idea of getting a spaceship to the moon. We already want to go to Mars, and everything keeps going instead of saying, oh, or imagine they would have heard people like say, hey, like this is not gonna work, like, and then imagine they just shut the idea, or when people say, no, it's not gonna work, imagine how many ideas get shut down like daily, like
Mm.
that actually can benefit us, and and I don't know, but I think it would be good idea to kind of like even touch more on it probably later on as far as like why a lot of us like I like growing up automatically goes to the negative. I think it might be like the ego thing that just trying to be accepted, in this situation is just saying like the mindset. Like I know growing like being younger is just like goes to the negative automatically.
Well, and I think, and I mean, if you look at it from um, like a family tree kind of thing, we're
Hmm.
a lot of our closest relatives, like to like the great great grandparent. I mean, it's been a lot of war and depression, a lot of anger, a lot of lies, a lot of. I mean, if you look at just the country of America, you got a lot of promises that were broken, a lot of freedoms lost, a lot of lives. You know what I mean? There's a lot of negative things that happened, and I think we are in a time where we're trying to find a way to heal from that so we can just move on and find something that's more optimistic and a better, outlook for the future. Because it is, I mean, how many people, I mean, today I know it's Veterans Day, and it's unfortunate how some of them end up after the war, so, and it's also is, what are the differences of the mindsets of people who go into the military? Because some are coming out of it and they have houses and jobs and lives, and then others are camped out up the street from me. You know what I mean? So is it mindsets? Is it the fact that they're neglected afterwards? It's like, what is even causing the fact that people who are going to do these things, are not receiving much when they come back, and then so that just,
yeah.
to me, that's just what plays into that generational side of, like, when we think about the negative, it's because if your parent isn't able to deal with that negative, you're kind of dealing with it now through them and stuff. So it's like you have to kind of work through all these things and find out what it is that's really holding us back from moving forward.
Yeah, and then I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how factual this is, but I could just imagine, or like our past ancestors, as far as like if you go back to, I don't know, cavemen or even before that, where we didn't have houses, there was just a jungle, there was just trees and everything, and all our senses are just an alertness, and obviously animals are trying to hunt us and we're trying to hunt them. So maybe I think that could be something that is passed from like generation, genes and genetics and everything to like, that's why it goes like maybe automatically to like that negative, like passed on from one thing to another, because we were always on like our, like, on our toes, trying to say, oh, like we're going to get eaten, so we want to make sure we attack back. Or, I mean, I'm
No, right,
talking on my ass, but I
there's
kind of like,
because you're right, because it's like there's the time to be in survival mode. You know what I
right.
mean? And I think it's just something where we have to start. I think we've kind of expressed it in a way before, where it's like, if you're sitting inside and you're not really going to see what the weather is like outside, can you really trust the person coming inside to tell you what it is?
Oh, that's right.
So
Yeah.
at some point we have to start, like, um, leaving that, like, pattern of negativity, and starting, or I'm sorry, yeah, we're trying to leave that mindset of survival mode so we can go into thrive mode, start enjoying the things that we've maybe put together or discovered as human beings. Let's appreciate the fact that we've developed ways to not separate from this, like, let's say, like, spiritual end of animals and stuff, but we do have differences than them. We are able to build our own homes and do our own things, and develop and find ways to communicate with each other from long distances and stuff. So we do have advances over things. So it's something where it's like, instead of continuing to go to war over these things, like, what are we really arguing over anymore? Like, we're so advanced as a
Yeah.
species. Like, it's not even about individual countries, because within every country there's people who are able to really access information and learn things and develop ideas and create that, and that's everywhere. There isn't a single place where someone doesn't have access to their own ideas and their own insights and their own ways to gain knowledge. So it's something where we just have to stop limiting our beliefs on who is smart, who and what certifies someone to be, a specialist or an expert. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What really causes an expert? Just because you study something for so long, someone else can still easily come along and disprove everything you've been studying your whole life. So I mean, I think it's just time we really start coming together and stop coming apart, because we do. I believe we all deep down do want a peaceful place to live. We're all just trying to get it to be one specific way. I think that's where we get
Right.
stuck, is like the one specific way, as opposed to like what we, kind of basing this idea around, is seeing what everyone's individual skill sets are, what everyone's idea, what everyone's creative vision is, and then just trying to give everyone their space to sort of live that reality.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens when, you brought into a system that, it's structural a certain way and you got to follow certain guidelines. And but the thing is like how you were talking about, like the veterans that are living on the street with the veterans are that are not. It feels like, that we want to treat, that the thing that's working for the veteran the same way that is not working for the veteran that's not working, like a
Mm-hmm.
certain structure. So what if, you know, you go to the group that it didn't work and try to say, oh, well, maybe there's this other way. I mean, even if it's like a, you know, like a mental thing like that they struggle with, but then what else can it be done to kind of not end up there? You know, because sometimes, you know, like it's not like, you know, I mean, you can't even say that, like, you know, people just give up and just say whatever, or, you know, sometimes they just stroll along and that's where they end up, and it's not, you know, um, and the thing is that we don't, and I think there has to be most like different types of um, like paths for certain type of people that go into different things. Because obviously, one path, like a school, you know, like for me, I was a kid, you know, that I couldn't pay attention at school because I was here, I was there, I was everywhere. I was very active, and my thoughts were just coming in and out, and like, I mean, but I would still learn everything, but I had to keep myself busy with other things. So compared to someone else that, you know, is all more calm and kind of being able to kind of learn a different way, we were all taught almost the same way. You know, you sit in a chair, you got to pay attention for 8 hours, and at the end, it's like, well, if you learned something, great. If you didn't, though, this is the only way. And a lot
Right.
of kids, and all the kids is like, that's unfortunate that they are not able to learn or express themselves in a certain way to be able to learn that thing that, you know, they're good at, you know, their
Right.
skills or development. Because obviously, I think every genetic has a specific skills that is generated a certain way.
Yeah, and I think honestly, it seems like a lot of times by the it's like by the time when someone has kids, by the time
Mhm.
that kid is going into school, they've completely forgotten that they've hated school. So now they have no, now they don't know why their kid is having such a hard time going to school and doing it. It's like because you hated it and it's still the same exact place. Like nothing in education has really seemed to change much besides the way they want to try to teach kids, which is more confusing at some points. So it's something where like to me, especially as you're going through like up to like fifth grade, it's more important to just figure out what you want to learn. I mean, there isn't anything that I feel like when I'm 10 years old, there really isn't much I would necessarily need, let's say, and just to be real, it's like I don't really know if I need math right away. But if I'm discovering what I want to do, and that's going to involve math, and as I'm going then into like a sixth or seventh grade and I'm maturing more, I'm going to take it more seriously because now I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have to know this formula in order to make this really cool app, you know, or to
Yeah.
design this video game. But we we don't seem to care about what they want to learn. We just want to tell them what to learn and expect them to kind of figure it out
Mhm.
as they go when they're kind of given all these limited options by people who limited their options. So it's like we got to let them kind of start to tell us what they would want to learn, and then allow it to later on kind of be developed and get those skills. And sometimes someone might be a late bloomer. You know, maybe they don't figure it
Mhm.
out right
Yeah.
away, but at the same time, you know, we're not discouraging them from that. We're just trying to like be supportive and this and that. But we want to automatically look and be like, oh well, now what are you contributing to society? Nothing. So you're worthless. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, give them a second because maybe once their idea develops, you know, like maybe when they're 20, like who cares? There's a billion trillion people on earth. Like if someone has to wait till they're 20 to find themselves,
Right.
fine, you know, but when they do, if they're given that freedom and that space to do it peacefully, they may have an idea that could top someone who's known what they've been doing. We don't know, you know, we don't really know what those possibilities could lead to.
Yeah, that's true. Because like you're so right. When you know, when when I see it, when, you know, parents now that have kids, you know, and then they're talking about like how school, it's like they obviously got to send their kids to school because it's mandatory, right? And I mean, if you don't, you go to jail and you get fined, so on and so on. And the thing is that, and sometimes the parents is like, yeah, you know, I know school sucks and everything, but what other options do I have? Yeah, you can go private school, but what if those people don't really have, you know, can't go to private school? And I think, like, you know, our own system, we kind of trapped ourselves in, you know, in that way, like, okay, we don't have the options, you know, or whatever. But I think, like, um I mean, I feel like, let's say if I was a parent and I had a kid, okay, well, I will send my kid to school, okay, go learn it, and then come home. It's like, well, what do you like the most from school, and what are you actually learning more? Instead of just coming home, doing your homework, say you better finish your homework, and that's it. I mean,
Right.
I get it, because your parents are busy and things like that. But I think like if we get more involved in the system where it's already structured and it's not working, and that this design was meant for a different time, you know,
Right.
then we need to figure out what other ways are possible. Because I really feel that I like what's going on now if I had a kid, let's say, because uh, some kids are going like for a couple of hours to school to socialize, and then some on video. I really don't agree that video call is the way to
Mm.
learn, like
No. Yeah,
like
it's really
and be with
I've
people.
tried
Like
online class. It doesn't work. You don't get the
right, yeah.
same. Yeah, there's not the same connection. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the kids are, it's even worse. They get, imagine if we can't even get that connection being older. Just imagine the kids
Right.
are gonna be like, oh, like I guess I gotta be in my computer and phone all the time, and my parents told me not to be. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, right. It's like we used to say, yeah, no, dude, it's so true. It's like
it's
everything is
like,
always just like, but that's what I mean. It's like, I've seen the meme. I don't know. I think it's quoted as the Shia LaBeouf thing. I don't know if he really said it or not, but it's just something where it's like, like 1998, we said don't get in the car with strangers. 2004, we're saying don't meet strangers off the internet. And 2000, then it was, I think that time was like 2018, we're saying order yourself a car by a stranger and get in, off your phone. You know what I mean? And so it's
that's
like,
right,
and again, that's what I'm saying. That's how quickly things change without us
right,
even, we don't even realize how quickly that happened.
right.
It was literally like 1 month there was an Uber, the next month we were all in an Uber. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like that's how quickly it was. And it just happened. And that's the thing. Like and now, you can get food delivered from wherever you want. I mean, when I worked at Michael's, people come in and they're picking up art supplies for people. It's like, so we've used it as a way to create, jobs and opportunities for people to do different things. So it's like we have to stop being opposed to all these ideas. Everyone fights this stuff. It's going to change anyway. I mean, if you're a human being, you have to understand things evolve, things change. So I mean, even right now, like talking about what kids can do, I think we have to kind of start encouraging kids more to be in the creative field, because if you look at it, growing up, if you told your parent, "Oh, I want to be an actor," "Oh, that's stupid. There's not enough opportunities." But if you're a parent and you tell your kid that, you're the stupid one because you're obviously not aware that you literally watch Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max. Like you're subscribing to the Disney Channel network that's creating new content for the stuff you like. If you don't see that as a parent, then you're just as
Right.
blind as everybody else. But like
Yeah.
if you have a kid who comes to you and is like, "Oh, I want to be in a Marvel movie," be like, "Hell yeah, I want to turn on Disney Plus one day and I want to see you on my TV." Like, give them that energy because
Yeah.
we're in this world right now where people love entertainment just as much as people love creating it. People are also watching it. So like, it's not so much a shot in the dark to get a role. And I'm not saying this like I feel like you can do whatever you want. Not everyone's going to be the best actor or actress, but guess what?
Right.
If that's what's needed and you're there, you'll get the job. If
Yeah.
you put yourself out there enough. Like, and I'm not saying like you're not like someone's not good. I'm just saying like we see people all the time that we're like, how'd that person do that? How'd they get that? How'd they get that record deal?
Right.
And
It
it's like,
does.
who cares? They did. They were just in the right place, right time. What does it really affect me? It doesn't really harm me in any way. But it's like that's the stuff we have to start encouraging people to do that. To be a musician. It's like we're it's at a time where it's like we need to start putting recording studios in schools rather than just putting all the money into a football field. Where's and I'm not talking like the like private schools, a place we have to spend tons of money, like the public schools.
Right.
If we're gonna want to give out free education, well, along with that comes with what people want to learn. And I don't think, honestly, I think people who are 16, 17 are putting movies together and they don't need to eventually go to a college for that either because they're probably already doing what the college would teach them anyway. Usually you just need connections.
Right. Yeah, and then the skills to like get it and put it together. Yeah, that's for sure. And I think it's like it brings us back to what we started with. It's like the I think I think this is what happens. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm not that old yet, and I think,
We're all super young.
well, I mean, we're getting older, obviously, but it hasn't happened to me yet. To let's say, you know, why does this negativity get passed on? Like you're saying, is like, oh, if my son or daughter wants to become this, why am I passing? Like, no, just no. Okay, you're not gonna make it. And I think a lot of things that has to do is that maybe they were said the same thing, you know, from their parents, and their parents didn't let them do, and they wanted it so bad that they just hold it as a negative all this time, you know. So I think this is where it comes back to, like, you know, the ideas of being like open, you know, like you know, instead of holding on to all those negatives from the past, you know, just from person to person, there has to be like a time that says, okay, well, this is where we're gonna stop it. Like, you know, um, like my parents, you know, like growing up, you know, they were just like, yeah, you know, you do whatever you like, you go enjoy it. And but then, like, you know, you remember like certain things. So it's like, oh, don't try this, you know, might why not become a doctor, or even like adults, you know, not just my parents, like adults, like, oh, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be doing this. And at the end, I'm like, but that's not what I said. I'm like, you know, and right, and then
Right.
at the end, like, you start to develop this sense, and I think at least for me, that okay, well, I know what society wants me to be, but I can see where I can recreate something else out in the universe for myself, and I enjoy it. And I
Hmm.
think that's when either, you know, I was just like, oh, I'm just not gonna listen to them, and just did it. But I think there has to be a time where either certain person says, hey, no, you gotta stop and not listen to what people are telling you. If people are telling you positive things like, hey, like, you're really good at this, maybe you should show it, maybe consider it. But don't say like, hey, like, yeah, don't continue that because you're doing so good. You know, like, even because people are sometimes selfish, they see someone doing really well and they just want to screw up their own, like, screw them up just so
Right.
they don't do well, instead of encouraging, or even say, hey, like, you're not good at this, but you're good at this, continue that, and do it, you know. And instead of just saying no right off the bat, because I know a lot of that happens too.
Yeah.
So that's why with I have three sisters, and you know, one's gonna be turned 21, one is 16, and the other one's 15. And I tell them, look, like, you guys can do whatever you want. Like, if you want, if you say someone older than you tell them, hey, like, I want to be this, I want to be this, and then they kind of do like a smart remark or anything like that, don't listen to them. It's just, you know, it's just,
You're like send them my way.
yeah, so like, let me know and I'll go talk to him, because at the end it's like you need that encouragement. Hey, you do you. Like,
Right.
you want to dress a certain way, dress a certain way. Don't get some, because at the end you're gonna have all this like remorse, or like even be like negative within yourself, and you're gonna create maybe like a negative, if you don't snap out of it, towards other people in that way.
Yeah, and I think it's hard, like, and again, like, I'm not a parent, but I think it's hard for parents to not automatically see a vision of their kid before that kid has a chance to do anything. You know, like, they already kind of see the life they would want their kid to live. And I think a lot of times when the kid starts to go against that grain, that's when the parents like battling their own, like that ego feeling of like, oh well, I wish they would have went to, law school, but now they're, a fashion designer. But at the same time, they're just as successful in the fashion industry. It's just different than what you would have thought. So it's like now it's up to the parent to then readjust to be like, okay, well, maybe my idea wasn't right for them, but I'm proud of them for sticking to their own, developing that work ethic to go and make it big. Because either way, success is success. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that go to law school that drop out, don't make it by the end, and don't become a lawyer. So if you take a shot at the fashion industry and you make it, cool, because
Right.
that's what you're passionate about. That's what you're going to succeed in anyway, all along. So, and I mean, even if that's, you know, again, against what you envisioned, it's just still having the positive outlook. Like, okay, maybe as opposed to trying to be like, oh, this is how I want them to dress or this and that. Just I want them to feel confident in how they look. change your perception to that, like I want them to feel safe within themselves. I want them to feel secure in walking down the street by themselves. You know what I mean? Just like being able to put more confidence and strength into your kids rather than just feeling like they have to be a certain way or else.
And I mean, I can like, cause cause I hear from a lot of like people. It's like I think they're trying to protect their kids, as far as
Hmm.
like, oh, I don't want them to fail, But I think that's the thing is that yeah, it sucks when people fail, but the thing is like I feel like I've learned a lot when I fail.
Yeah.
Your mind's like, well, how can I solve this problem that I have? And if you don't let them do what they want and you just say, hey, this is a safer path, then what are you gonna do when they're not there? Or let's say, their parents are holding their hand all along and your parents just leave. What do you think they're gonna do? They're obviously gonna run back, or they're just gonna go crazy on their on themselves because you were there all along and not giving them like, hey, try it out for yourself, be open to whatever path you want, and at the end, as long as you're happy, you're fine. So I think sometimes it can be seen as a positive, but sometimes do a negative um, in a restriction certain way to a certain individual. And I think that's where it should be kind of, yeah, I get it. You want to protect your family, you want to do the best, you want the best for your people. And but the thing is that, well, the best is it's what someone is telling you. It's like when you go to a doctor saying, what hurts? My arm hurts. Okay, well, what did you do? Like you ask them of what they want, what they're feeling, and what they want to create, and then you just help them out.
Hmm.
And you gotta get me. It's like the idea. What's your idea, like kiddo? Tell me, kiddo. And if I can help you, great. If if I say, hey, like become a doctor, become this, and you're feeling like becoming a doctor because you feel like it, then I can help you in any way. But yeah, I think that's the best thing is when ideas are thrown out there and people are out there say, hey, maybe try this and it might work.
Right.
Because
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like honestly, that's where I feel like I struggled a lot was like I always felt like I had a good vision or for something or a good way for something to be done. And I think for me, something I eventually had to like learn to battle was the idea that it felt like I really would express an idea that I believed in. People kind of wouldn't do anything or care about that. Like, and then all of a sudden, like at my jobs, this is mainly what I'm referencing. It's like all of a sudden, then I would like see one of my ideas happening, and I'm just like realizing like, so this wasn't like a bad idea. I'm just like talking to the wrong people here, because like I'm like just because
yeah,
again, it's because some people they like to just do what they're told. They like the ideas to be delivered to them. Like so for me, my background in retail is like some people just okay, this is the picture, this is how they want it. Let's
mhm,
do it to the best of this. But sometimes for me, I'm like, well, I know it's the picture, but like our store's set up a little differently. So what if we like put this way or that way? It's like, well, here's the picture. So let's just do the picture. You know what I mean? It's like no one wants to try to do something different
yeah,
because God forbid the district manager walks in and sees something different than the picture, and now they're, well, why'd you do it different than the picture? Everyone's afraid of that trickle that,
yeah.
but then the district manager walks in, and because they're higher status, will be like, oh, why don't we move this over to this wall? And I'm just sitting there like, that's what I talked about. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
literally exactly like it's
That's,
happened. It would happen so many times to me. Like one time, I was literally told like, "Don't do anything differently than the picture," and I had like, and it was because I had like set a table up a different way. I was told not to do that, and then I watched the district manager come in and set a table up exactly how I just had it set up, and I'm like,
that's hilarious.
so I'm talking to the wrong people. You know what I mean? And again, what I mean, like later down the road, I had to learn to then not be so like frustrated with it because now I'm working into like how to then confidently start showing by example, executing my ideas on my own. Like my biggest thing right now is like been on this art journey for about I guess it's been about 5 years, maybe a little long, maybe just a little more or something, but like now everything's happening. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
getting shows, I'm getting feature walls, I'm selling stuff online, like and it's great. It's
yeah,
amazing. It's just one of those things where like if I hadn't believed in myself, I would have, given up by now, but I still see that everything is actually like happening. So it's like, to me, I'm in this place where I'm like, I literally can't stop going forward, mainly because I know already, like, this is what I'm saying, like, I already know what that future is. So there's nothing that's going to, from the past, that's going to tell me to not keep going forward. There's nowhere in my past I want to go back to, because I'm at this place now where I'm like, I already know, even if the future that I project, if I go back home, it's like give up or just get that number, I'm gonna look and be like, I was this close. I was this close. So instead of being this close, I'm just gonna keep going because I've already seen how everything I've been doing so far. Like I said, like I really have seen honestly how every thought I've ever had has become a actual reality of mine. Like that's my truth. I'll never let anyone tell me like thoughts don't create your reality because I'm like, nope. I watched every single thought I've ever had come to light. And that's how I am.
And that's true, and I think that's important because I mean you're very like a good example of a strong foundation. Like what are some things that you can tell people like obviously you gone through some struggles and some some learning a process that obviously even before you didn't have, right? So you kind of develop it over time. So what would you tell someone that it does have ideas and just wants to like give up? And obviously you built such a strong mindset and foundation that you just keep going. And even if you tell yourself, hey, like oh, this might not work, but you still keep going, and then it works out because you already have that kind of habit or even mindset.
I think for me, it's honestly know that like with whatever idea you have, someone out there is going to be willing to like connect with it and help you make it a reality. Like someone out there is going to do it. So just write your ideas down as they come. If you do share them with somebody and you feel like, okay, maybe they didn't get it, just like don't feel negative about their response because they're in a different place than you. They don't understand things the way you do. Just like you may not understand something how they understand it. It's just something where like if you're born into a small town, don't let again that limit, like you might have to leave. You might have to go to another town, another city, you know what I mean? And don't feel like you're gonna get that pressure, like, oh, you're gonna leave, you're gonna be bigger than us, think you're better than it's like, well, no, I don't think that. That's what you think of me. That's not what I think of you. So I'm gonna go ahead and still make my ideas a reality, and that's what you have to do because you're. To be honest, though, like at the end of the day, you yourself are the only person that can actually stop you from making your idea happen. Like that's it. I mean, if you tell it to somebody and they give you a negative response and you let that be the reason you don't succeed, that's still on you. And if you fall into the guilt of not leaving your town or your area or whatever, or, changing up how you do routines, that's still on you. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I had to learn how to do differently, a lot of ways I had to learn about myself, how to learn how, I'm not always the best person and how to change things, because my success is only on me. There's no one that's going to really make my success happen for me. There's going to be people that help, there's always people that help. I've grown to that place where like, at the end, when I'm where I want to be, like I will never be someone who says I did it all on my own because no one ever does anything they're on their own. They might feel like it, but ultimately without someone else helping bring you up and helping bring, like you just can't. There's always going to be someone that's helping you. So don't allow yourself to be in such a negative place either that you can't see the ones who are lifting you up, because if you don't, at some point they're going to feel like you're too heavy and they might just let you go, but at the same time they've been a really good support for you.
Yeah, no, then that's true because it feels like either the person you meet next is the person that you're gonna learn something from, or that's gonna motivate you. And either way, it can be a negative or positive way. That's the way I think, at least. But I'm pretty sure you can relate. Like when people say like, "Oh, you can't do it," oh really? Like I can't do it. I mean, obviously, if it's something stupid, I'm like, well, obviously, I'm not gonna do it. But if it's something like, "Oh, this is my idea, this is my thought, this is my process, this is what I'm gonna do," and it's like, "Oh, you're not gonna do it," then obviously that's gonna you gotta take that energy and put it in a positive force to make it happen, or even in a positive way. So say, hey, you know what, like, yeah, go for it and take it in, and they're kind of actually helping you, right? Like in
Yeah.
either in some kind of way, even if they're not like physically helping you or anything. I think the universe has this way of kind of just shifting you to the certain people to just keep going, like
Yeah.
your path, you know?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's funny because like we talked about like the Wright brothers and the first in flight earlier, and then you talk about crazy ideas. It's like, okay, so a lot of people thought it was crazy just to get a plane to fly, and then there
Right.
was a whole other person that was like, hey, what would it be like if I just jumped out of that thing? You know what I mean? And now there's
Yeah,
like people doing it all over the world. And then the
that's,
military people jumping out with parachutes. So it's like just as quickly as
yeah,
we developed a way to go up, someone created a way to go down.
that's,
And that's just how things are, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's like, so when you were saying like if it's too crazy, it's like, what is too crazy? You
that's
know,
right.
someone wanted to jump off the bridge, but they just didn't want to die. So they're like, well, what if I attached a bungee to myself? Problem solved. They get to
Having fun.
experience a free fall, and then what do they do? Then they sell the idea, they market it, they have other people try it who pay them. So it's like there really may not be an idea that's too crazy. It's
Yeah,
only sometimes a matter of, is a person crazy enough to actually make it happen? You know, like,
right.
because think about it, like I'm saying, like someone at one point had to be like, well, I'm about to jump out of this plane. I really hope that this sheet that I tied above my head is going to keep me from falling and crashing. And then they had to figure it out. And
So,
it, it's just something that, and hey, but then on a
I mean,
serious end, there are accidents that happen, but they still progress. They still do it.
yeah,
So it's like,
that
is
had to be a big group, because I'm pretty sure the first guy died.
right? Like it can't, like it just seems too scary. Like I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of want to do it. I just haven't done it yet. But
Yeah.
it's like, but that's what I mean. Like
Hey, we should
the
do it
way
together. Because I haven't
I'd
done
be
it yet.
down, man.
I'll
Yeah,
be
I'm
totally
definitely
down.
down. I had a friend that just did it and he said he loved it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to experience it. I mean, like, but that's it. And I mean, hey, and again, someone developed the train, right? And then someone was
Right.
like, can we make that train go upside down? And now we have roller coasters. You know what I mean? Like, so
That's right.
there's just
That's
like
right.
all these
Let's make it go
possibilities to
faster.
life. Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, what if we just drug it up a giant hill and then just like let it go? And then what happens? And then it's like, and now we do it for entertainment. So it's
That's
like,
right.
it really just takes like someone with a vision and people to believe in that person's vision to make it happen. And I think if you are someone with a strong vision, I do think it's the biggest strength you can gain for yourself is really learning how to work with people. Is learning how to like keep your ego aside, learning how to, if you have a team that you're working with, how to support them just as much as they're supporting you, making sure you're not going into like a dictatorship in your idea. It's like kind of the more you can develop that within yourself as you're trying to make your idea happen, the more you're going to naturally draw in people that just want to see you succeed, just want to see your idea happen because they're like, man, I just want to be a part of this. That sounds cool. You're telling me you're going to create a park where there's just going to be a train that goes up and then down really fast. That sounds cool. Let's make it happen. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
and
right.
then you get to be part of that experience. So I mean, and that's how ultimately, I feel like we grow as people by connecting and not feeling like something is too stupid, to do because it's like they're all stupid ideas to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Like when I say it was like crazy, I meant like just jump off into that volcano and see what happens. I mean, obviously we're gonna know, right? But obviously, like I like it, like the way you shifted that into that, because that is true. There is no such thing as a bad idea, because then it gets done and then it kind of just progresses from there.
Yeah,
Instead of like just stopping there, it can turn to fun, even as crazy as it is. Because I mean, sometimes like, yeah, people say crazy things, but I only hear clips of what they're saying. But let's say if I do start talking to them, say, oh, like, you don't sound so crazy after you telling me. It's like the brand new thing that you discovered. I'm like, oh my god, I heard this on I don't listen to the radio, but I heard it on the radio.
yeah.
But they're like, oh, but I never thought about it this way. Like maybe I should think this way, and then you just kind of start adding ideas on top of that, and then you're like, oh, well, it's not crazy after all.
Yeah. And I'm not, and again, like, I'm not saying this is what I'm a part of, but at the same time, there are people who they grow up thinking the world is round. Now they're listening to people that that are telling them that it's flat, and they're over there like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So it's like they're getting into a position where now they're telling their brain it has to think differently and has to see something differently. You know what I mean? So it's like, And again,
Yeah,
people want to say what they will about them, and that's fine. Like, but at the end of the day, like if they want to be in a world where they can have an unlimited belief and that's what they can believe, like just you don't gotta go make
yeah,
a big deal out of it. Right now
that's
it doesn't
true.
seem like it's
That's true.
harming anything.
No, that's right. That's right. I mean, as long as they don't, go door to door. Hey, you want to flang yourself
Yeah.
and
Yeah, right. Like actually, it was like I was listening to something one time on the radio about a guy who was like, "Oh, I went to like a rally for Flat Earth
Mhm.
just to see what it was." He was like, "To be honest, like I didn't agree with any of it, but they were a lot of the nicest people I've ever met."
Yeah,
He was like, "I didn't agree with anything they were saying, but they were all super nice about it." So it's like, they're nice people who it's not damaging much. Like
yeah, that's true. That's 100% because like I've seen it with like friends and people that are on their different side of politics, and I see it like they're good people. They're great people.
mm,
They agree. They talk to each other, and then that's great. They keep going,
yeah.
and that's I think that's what it should be. It's like why it feels like I heard this on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Mm,
It's like if I'm not gonna be like genuine myself and be open like 100%, this is me having a conversation with you. I'm not. It's not script. Like right now we're talking. If this is not me now, like and I do like everything script. Like obviously when I'm with other people, I'm not gonna be like this. It's the same. So it's
right.
kind of like a little more like more seems like fake, to get along with, too as well. So instead of just
Right.
being like joining open, it's like, okay, well, just be open, talk to people. There's no need to say pick sides. There's no need to say, hey, you're better than me on this. Yeah, you may be better than me on this one here, but that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
you did what you had to do, obviously.
And
Like,
that's what's kind of interesting. Like for me, like right now, like I'm in that place where I observe a lot. So it's kind of like I watch, like, it's kind of like for me, it's like 4 years ago, like Trump wins and it's all like, oh, the election was hacked. This happened, that happened. It's like,
yeah,
okay, people claim this stuff all the time. And now this year it's like, oh, Biden won, but there's election fraud, there's this and that. And it's like, I'm just at this place where I'm like, I just want everyone to wake up to the fact that like it's always been like this. Like, I mean, back in the day, like when you really think about it, like there would be a time when if I were to vote, I'm like giving it to like a guy on a horse, Like, do I trust him? Like, I don't even know where he's taking that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just kind of this thing where like, has any of this
yeah,
really been fair or just? You know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
and it's just something to me where it's not even about who's right. I don't even care. Like I don't care which side is right or whatever, because I just feel like if you really paid attention to what, let's say, like Democrats were saying 4 years ago, it just look like literally the Republicans are saying the same thing with different words. It's just a
yeah,
different view, but you're both trying to get across the same message of like something feels off about this. And maybe
yeah.
you're right, and that's where I'm at. So it's like I'm seeing a lot of people who like are talking about the front, and I'm just sitting here, I'm like, this happens all the time. Like, when are we just gonna stop
Yeah, that's
believing that?
and
Like, like
I 100% because I was even thinking that the other day. I'm like, it went from TV media to social media. It's still media. They're
still
still doing the
media.
same thing.
Hmm.
It's like, when are we gonna learn? It's just, yeah, different generation on a different phone, different things. But aren't we like smart enough to say, look, it's just a different device, same thing?
Yeah, it's just it
Like,
was just
come
it
on,
just
guys.
there was really just like there was like a little bit of a gap in between like the internet becoming social media. Like there was
Right,
like Facebook and Instagram, but they weren't. I don't feel like they were used right away as sort of
right.
like a media
It
platform. I think
it took to
it
now.
went from it went from just posting like I'm taking a poop and eating Cheetos to like, oh, did you know that the election was rigged? You know what I mean? It like
Yeah,
went from
yeah,
like it went from taking a photo of like the tree outside my house to like a meme about you know what I mean? It's like it there was a gap. There was a period of time when it was fun. There was a period of time when it was just about being yourself and using social platforms before it was really social media, just social platforms to just talk to people, to get to know people. But yeah, now it becomes like the social media and Instagram is putting out warnings and blocking hashtags because they're afraid of false information and this and that. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, let's be real, all information is just information. It's
Right.
whether you
Exactly.
think it's real or not. Like I'm on this, like that's what's hard. Like what I'm finding is hard for me maybe to like learn how to communicate to people right now is like whatever you decide is your belief, like you're gonna discover facts for it. But you just have to be open-minded to know whoever has the opposite belief of you is gonna come to you with things like facts. Because to them they're gonna be factual. You might not believe they're facts, but they're
Yeah.
going to show them to you because to them that's what they believe. So it's like you're
Yeah.
just trying to combat beliefs, and
And
everyone
then,
thinks they have the proof and the facts.
right. And then also know that if the other person is actually right, it's okay to change the way you think. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing. It's actually even more humble thing. It's like, hey, you know what? I think you're actually right about that. Because a lot of people say, like I'm gonna stick to my beliefs and that's all it's gonna be. But if there's actually you can call them facts, you can say common sense, you can call it whatever, and it's actually the right thing that it is the right thing, then it's like, I thought about it, and you remember that other time we talked about, I think you were right. And I think I completely changed my mind. And that's fine because obviously what we think now is completely different from what we thought when we were 15. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's okay to be changed in mindset,
Yeah.
even on thoughts, ideas. It's like we can't be linear because obviously ideas, information, everything changes like extremely back and forward, and we're not going to be right all the time,
Mm-hmm.
like at all. So all we can do is just share the information that we have. And yeah, like, if we agree, great. If we don't, great. I mean, is it really like gonna affect us that much personally if
Yeah. I think
my views are completely different than yours?
I have seen though like where that argument has kind of gotten to where it's kind of like, well, it depends, like we can argue over tax percentages, but like we can't argue over the fact that like everyone deserves the equal right to get married to whoever like they choose. You know what I mean? Like there's some things where it's like if you're against someone's free wills and ability to be free in their own right, like that's where kind of I've seen the argument get tough because it's like I want to always be able to say like, yeah, I can agree with you, but if you're
Right.
someone who's like, no, this person shouldn't be allowed to do this just because I disagree with it, that's where sometimes I'm like, okay, but that's not like that's just like you're allowing your personal belief to affect things. Where if it's like we're trying to figure out how much money should be allocated to like education and healthcare, like those are things to like sit down and debate and we can have a discussion over. But if it's like it's something as simple as like, you know, people shouldn't be, locked in cages right now. That's not even a question. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's like not even a question. Like
Right.
we're
Yeah.
like we're like kidnapping other people's kids at borders. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
there's some human things that to me is hard because I can see it where
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to always be able to, but like if someone's so closed minded to that, then I'm like, we will never hang out again,
Yeah.
because
It's
clearly
like
I'm
common
also
sense.
like, yeah,
It's
because
like
clearly
common
it's
sense.
also like, yeah, because kind of like sometimes like that person more than likely will never change their mindset. So me even be around them trying to do it is just not even worth my time. So as opposed to even trying to get to change that, you may have to just block someone out of your life because if they are just so closed-minded in their own belief, you're never really going to get through to them anyway because they've already kind of made that decision. But for the most part, yeah, like I said, we want to make figure out how money has to get allocated or something like those things. That's fine if we have disagreements on. But I feel like there is some things where it's like, well, you're kind of just intruding on other people's rights to enjoy life. So that's not something we can debate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. Because the thing is that at the end, how bad people actually are, or good or bad, I mean, they have to be treated a certain way. They
Yeah.
can't, just okay. Well, yeah, illegal or not illegal. Like how you said the cages, like that's like not even an animal likes being in a cage. What do you think a human
Right.
is gonna like? Are you
Yeah.
serious? That's like really.
Yeah.
And then I think like I think like the best thing like I heard like I think well I don't know, was it like this year or something? It's like, why is an adult telling another adult what to do as far as their own thoughts? You know?
Right.
It's like, well, like, let's like, as long as that person or adult is not hurting other people, or killing, or obviously we know what's really bad is killing, obviously,
Yeah.
like killing or hurting someone mentally, physically, that we know, you know. As long as that doesn't happen, like, why does it matter if I want to, like, oh man, the only thing is I thought I was like shoot a rocket to space, but I mean that can get dangerous. But I'm saying, like, if I have that idea, why can't I do it? Like, if I can do it, as
Mm.
long as I have the permits, I have like everything. But let's say like right away, get shut down. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. But I'm saying, like, if I want to, oh man, I'm trying simple idea. Like, if I want to mow my lawn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I should have the right to mow my lawn at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Like, instead of saying, "Hey, you can't do that at 3 o'clock," I mean, unless you're having church on that day. I
Yeah. Well,
mean, I
no,
don't know.
no, but I mean, no, that's right. Because like,
All
no,
right.
there are places, like there are towns, there are communities, like not just within America or anything. There are other countries
Yeah.
where like if you like people just they're so negative within themselves that like if you're
Yeah.
working on your house next door and you're let's say it's 10 in the morning on a Saturday and they want to sleep in, so now they're annoyed that you're outside mowing your lawn or doing something, and it's like, and then it's just the conflict, but it's like, well, what do you want people to do? Like, we're all just trying to live amongst each other, it's like hey, maybe get out of bed, like maybe sleeping in isn't really in the books today, so if you get off your high horse about sleeping in, maybe you get up early, maybe you do something differently with your day, maybe you decide, you know what, I don't want to be here while he's working on his place, and then you leave and maybe you find a new place to eat food. You know what I mean? It's like, who knows?
Yeah.
When you put yourself in a positive outlook.
Yeah, I mean, I think here's a better like example, but yeah, but that's true though. It's like how people want to do their hair. I think that's typical. Like, I know sometimes even older people like don't like certain type of hairstyles, and like, why does it matter to you? Like,
Yeah.
why does it matter? Like, is it your hair? Like,
Right.
it does.
Yeah, I've had many of hairstyles, so I know. Like
Right,
my hair
right,
used to
right.
be my hair used to be like super long, you know what I mean? Like I remember one time a guy, like I was at a bar or something and a guy was like, "Do you know it should look like a female from behind?" I'm like, "I don't care. Like, do you know that you just don't need to approach people anyway because we don't
That's
know each
right.
other?" You know what I mean? Like, and it's just stuff where like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like people like have to feel like they have to like,
It's the little things like that. Like
yeah.
like I'm an adult, you're an adult. Does it matter? Like, why does it matter? Like, what I want to do? Like, is it affecting? I mean, I think some people is just internally something's going on, and they
Well,
just have to.
yeah, and it depends too. Like some of it's a religious thing. I mean, like some people are honestly like so afraid of things that are different that if like they don't know what someone's about, they automatically just assume it's evil, So I mean, because there are a lot of places that like still to this day, like you can go to jail for being homosexual. You know what I mean? And it's like, what the hell? Like, how does that even work? Like, it's just been something that's been going on since the beginning of time. Like, when did we even really start to like demonize it so much? And it's like, and it is like people's religious beliefs, and then some people go off in the deep end. I mean, I've heard people who go off on this crazy rant about how they think there's conspiracies around people being turned gay to bring neighborhoods down. I'm just like, you think people have that much time
I
on their
never heard of that
hands?
one before.
Oh yeah, dude, it gets really deep
Oh
sometimes. I'm like, you
shit.
think that people have that much time on their hands? Like, their agenda is to turn your community gay so you stop producing? Like, you really think that's like what's going on? I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, well, if you allow yourself to think that's what's going on, then I guess that's what's going on, right? Like, but it's not, like we we do need to be able to balance out how we can just be okay with how someone else is living their life, like obviously, like you said, like you don't want to be infringing on someone else's rights, so like don't be killing people, don't be going after weak-minded people, like don't get into like your the weird stuff that should just common sense tell you like you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing, and I don't know. It's just how I see it because I feel like everyone does have the right to do that. So it's like, and again, this even goes back to what we're saying: finding your own individual self, and then being able to accept other people for their individual self.
That's true. Because at the end, when you accept yourself, then obviously you're gonna be more open to accept others, and other people are gonna, like, feel comfortable around you. Say, oh, like, I can actually open up with me because they're open up about me. And then I think that's when you have the idea and comfortable come together, then it's just gonna be flowing with like new things coming out, new paths. And I think that's where it is. It's like I know we talked about it a couple of times. It's like work on yourself, and it's not selfish. Like it's not selfish because the more you work on you, the more great energy you're gonna come out there. You're gonna feel better, and a lot of people are just gonna come say, "Hey, how did you get this great energy?" Because I can sense it, I can see it, and that kind of makes people around you better. And I think that's what you do. It's like, and then also like if people are also like good teachers, in a sense of way, it's like, oh, like then teach the people around you, or do your skills and show your skills so like that other people around you can develop that kind of skill. Because a lot of people are waiting for something to be motivated, something to wake up, something to light that match on, light that candle, turn on the light. Like people need that. People need that so we can all wake up and not have so much stress all the time and conflict within each other. Because obviously, like you said in the beginning too, we all know inside what we want. We want peace. We want to be great with each other. Like I don't think anyone that I met actually comes up to you and says, "Hey, you know what I don't want today? I don't want fucking peace in the world." Or things like that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. Unless they're
and I mean
crazy, but
right, no, I know, and I think right now we're in a really interesting time for things to change.
right.
And it's like I don't want to go too far into like a new topic or anything, but just like thinking about how now Oregon is a place where like I every
Yeah.
drug is decriminalized, and
I'm
it's
moving
like
there.
okay, right? It's like, but it's kind of like okay, well, like again, here's a place that's like okay, we've heard all the backlash that what could happen, but the
Mhm.
reality is no one's tried it yet. So if we try it and it fails miserably, then we've learned this will not work.
Right.
But if we try it and it starts working and progress is happening, then let's do. I mean, look at how quickly marijuana went from illegal to like basically legal all over the place now.
Right.
So, and not only that, it's like now there's stocks being invested in marijuana, businesses investing in marijuana. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even just a thing it's like a literal investment. Like I did see a funny meme the other day that was like, so when are we going to congratulate drugs for winning the war on drugs?
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's so
and I
true.
was like, it's really funny, and I think like that's the thing. I feel like people kind of, again, it's like the people that promote the idea of like, okay, well, if you make all guns illegal, aren't people going to find a way to get guns? And it's like, okay, so if you think the same about drugs are all illegal and people are finding a way to get them. So what happens if what we do is we balance out the ideas, make all the drugs legal, make the guns legal, see what
Right.
people do to each other. It's like then you can go in that curve.
That,
But it's like I don't know. But at the same time, if people also say proper education around things, then you're opening up the door to have more open discussions around what drugs can do to somebody besides just like a dare program. You know what I mean? Like
right.
those dare
Which was
programs were
the
just
best
those were
thing I
just
wanted to see in
propagandas.
elementary. I know.
Yeah. Like I really wanted to like honestly, it was like something when I was in like fifth, sixth grade. I remember having
Yeah.
a thing with it, and for me, someone who like really respected Chris Farley, like I didn't really care to see a dead picture of him. Like, and I had to see that at a young age, and I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't really need to see that to like not want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, but also it's like you're just trying to like scare us into all these things, and you're also making people aware of the fact that the drugs exist. So
I'm
it's
like,
like,
these are drugs? Oh no
like,
way.
oh, what's that? And it's like,
And it
and
is
that's the thing.
true.
So we're gonna finally see what happens when
Yeah.
we just do something different. And again, there's people who hate on the idea, and it's fine. But if
Exactly.
if it works, it will work. But
Right, exactly. Which is perfect. What we were just saying is like it's an idea. If it's
mm,
going to work, great. Because I mean, I think the best thing that I heard from that is like the reason they did it legal is because they want to actually have it in like actual like clinics that if people want to get like away from heroin, like they'll be able to buy heroin and kind of doze off off of heroin and kind
mm,
of like kind of be better, or like things that have like really bad addiction, which is great. And also like the war on drugs because of weed. It became legal. The cartel stopped focusing on weed. they start now focusing on other harder things. So if you made everything legal, then obviously they're not going to be fighting over something that the people can't want and can't get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
for sure.
but 100%, it's the idea. Let's be open to it, not just throw it off. Like let's see what really happens, and see like what happened with last time with Colorado, right? It was like that was like the first the trial for everyone.
Right.
Oh, it's working. Oh, great. And then so now it's Oregon. See what happens.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, again, there's nothing wrong with an
Yeah.
idea failing,
No.
and if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. But I think they're just sitting up there like, well, no one has really actually tried it yet. So, like, if we're one place, our people voted that we take the risk. It's not even like we just said we're doing it. We let the people vote. Like, they said, it's okay. Let's take this risk. Let's see what happens. And to be fair, I think especially like in Oregon, I think a lot of it's just going to end up being that they just come up with the scientific research on how to use psilocybin to help cure depression and just start handing that out. And next thing you know, the drug companies are like, shit, what are we gonna do now? And then it's all of a sudden your doctor's prescribing you mushrooms because
that's right.
That's what's been being held back this whole time, so pharmaceutical companies can exist. I mean,
right.
That's something where like. I mean, what's the difference between something that's growing out of nature, like a mushroom, and like something that's being made in a scientific lab? It's like they're both have risks, right? It's
true.
not like I haven't seen a drug commercial that doesn't tell me about side effects. So, I mean, like everything's going to have
the whole commercial side effect.
Yeah. And at the end of, and that's the thing, it's like at the end of a pharmaceutical drug, it's still like, and you could die. So if all the risk is a death, it's risks, right? Like we as humans have the ability to decide if we want to take them or not. And that's the thing. It's like I feel like it's interesting to see because I think like as we go through this period of change, we're gonna see a lot of these like initiative programs kind of start up. We're gonna see some that fail, but we're gonna see some that have great success to the point where like I think we will open a door for the next what I see is like the next period of time of people actually starting to try different things. I don't think everything just gets like changed overnight. I think it's something where like what's going to happen is people are going to start feeling a little bit more confident to just try something new, to think a certain way, that's like, even just a simple fact of people who are more than likely going to try a Beyond or an Impossible Burger now. Like, well, it's here. I can get it at Burger King. Maybe let me try this Impossible Whopper. Maybe like, hey, I kind of like this better. And then their doctors are like, well, if you like the taste, it's healthier for you. And, so you can have, 2 of them a day and be fine rather than if you had 2 regular ones. And they're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And it's like getting people to just to have the options to choose things that they might not have.
At least you have like and like an adult have the decision for it. Like do it. Say, hey, I want to try it. Why not? And I think that's very important for like, our group of, humans for everybody that, we need to have that, I mean, it's just common. It's not even common. It's like, I think, this is how I feel, is like, I think we know, we're just afraid of speaking out to what might be right, which is wrong. Because sometimes, like saying, oh yeah, this is bad, like, don't talk about it. It's like, well, why not talk about it and see where it goes? Like instead of just shutting it, like you had a bad experience with it, but it might help others. It's just, we just need an idea to develop instead of just being stopped and say, hey, this is not going to work. Because obviously we live in a world with, billions of people in that if someone brings an idea, I'm sure someone else knows how to develop it. And the way to, and if we're gonna say, hey, we don't want to work with you in here, then what is progress? What are we gonna do with ourselves? I think that's the whole part of evolution, is evolving as a human being and working towards the better. We don't want to be destructive towards ourselves or the people around us. So then why do we have to even put it on us mentally that like negatively, like no, it's okay to share, it's okay to be open, and sometimes it's okay to even say, hey, I don't agree with it, and the other person not be pissed about it. and just keep things going. They don't have to be like a war over it. Okay, well, I mean, it can just be so many scenarios in that case
Right.
that yeah, we all want peace, but the thing is that we keep arguing over this thing. It's like, no, let's find solutions instead of just bumping the
What's
same
what it is? I mean,
problem.
I think that's the thing. Like, we're in that place now where it's. I think kind of like I was saying with like statistics or something. It's like until we kind of start projecting better statistics for the future, like it's gonna just feel like that same repetitive cycle. So it's like we have to find the solution. Like we all know what it's like. We all like I'm like we all know what the problems are. I know what all the issues are. I'm trying to figure out like real solutions. So if someone's bringing up an idea and all you're doing is bringing up statistics to say why it can't work, you kind of don't need to be in that room because we don't need the stats from the past. We get it. We know what we're trying to create new things. We're trying to create a new way to see the future. I don't need the past anymore. I get it. It's like I've learned what I need to learn from it, so let it be. It's like so when I'm in that room, if I'm in that room with five people and the one person shares their idea, if someone's like, well, it can't happen because of this, whoever's the leader should probably look at them and be like, you're out. You know what I mean? Like as soon as you say it's impossible, you're out. Because you're just
Yeah.
saying like your mind is too closed. You have to have that ability to say like it's possible, but it may not happen in an easy way. It may not happen overnight. That's fine, but it's like you have to still see that possibility in the change you want. And again, and the only way I see to create peace is to live in peace, and that
Yeah.
means not reacting out of anger, not reacting out of negativity. It's really hard to love your enemy, but the second you can hug the person you hate, the moment the hate is gone. So
Mhm.
I mean, and it's really hard. Like there's definitely been people that I've come across. I'm sure you've come across where it's really hard, but you're still like, well,
Yeah.
if I only have negative energy towards you, then that's what I'm really feeling inside, and I don't want that.
Right.
Um, so it is just coming together and to start talking about positive solutions for the problems as opposed to just repeating the fact that there is a problem.
That's true. I agree 100%. And I think on that note, I think that's a good way to end it because
Yeah, man.
that's really what I need. I think you said it clearly in the end. The only way to create peace is peace within yourself. And then if you're not at peace with yourself, then you can't be peace with anybody around you.